Hello again and welcome to my channel. This tutorial is for a new throw. It's called Sweet Harmony and it's worked in double knit yarn with a 5mm hook. The colours that I used for the original sampler are 3 shades of pink, 3 shades of grey and also white, but for this one that I'm going to do the tutorials with, I'm using 3 shades of grey and 3 shades of a blue tone here, and again I'm also using white. And you can use any colours that you want to for this blanket. If you wanted to do it in an Aran yarn, just go up with the hook size to a corresponding size, but with the double knit and my particular tension, I like to use a 5mm hook with a double knit yarn. So I'm going to start with the palest of the blue tone. We're going to start, as always, with a slip knot onto the hook, and you can do that in any way that you prefer. We're going to work a chain of 4, so 1, 2, 3 and 4, and as always we're going to join into that first chain just with a slip stitch to form that first string that we're going to work into here. So on this blanket, all the beginning stitches are going to be either 3 chain, which is going to count as the double, or 2 chain if it's a half double, etc., or we'll work a standing starting stitch, and I'll show you how to do that as we go along. So we're going to work into this ring 12 doubles. So because we've not got a new colour to start with, I'm going to do that first stitch as a 3 chain, and then I'll work another 11 doubles into that ring so that we've got 12 stitches all together. So there's 1, 2, we're now on to the 3rd stitch. We've got the 3 chain there as the first one, and another 2. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. We're going to join into the top of that 3rd chain just with a slip stitch to fasten off, and then the tail of the yarn you can pull tight so that it closes up the center hole there. I'm going to fasten off the yarn and just pull through that loop to finish off, and there we've completed our first row. The next row I'm going to use the slightly darker shade of blue, and to start this row I'm going to work a standing stitch. So around any of the doubles on row 1 I'm going to work a back post double around the stem of that stitch. If you prefer to do the 3 chain method, just join to the stem of that stitch and then work 3 chain. So we're going to yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. So there we've got the first back post double. We're going to chain 1 and then do a back post double around the next stitch, chain 1 and another back post double. We're just going to do exactly the same all the way around this row. If you want to pause the video until you worked your back post stitches around, feel free to do so, and we can meet when you reach the end of the row. Don't worry about the tails of the yarn, we can work those in afterwards. So we should have, because we've got 12 stitches to start, we should also have 12 stitches here on this round. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. We've got the final chain 1, and then we're going to join into the top of that standing back post double there, or if you did the 3 chains it would be into the top of the 3 chain. So we're going to fasten off the yarn and pull through. I'll just pull this tail of the yarn through to the back for the time being there. So the piece of work to start off with will look like this. If you're following the same colour theme as me, we'll be working now with the dark grey. We're going to again join with a slip stitch onto the hook. We're going to work a front post double around the back post double that we worked on the last row, so you can start in any stitch, and as always I like to start mine away from where I worked starting on the previous row, just so that we've not got a lot of these ends all in the same place to work in. So I'm going to work a standing front post double, which is yarn over the hook, behind the stitch pick up a loop, yarn over through 2 and yarn over through 2. I'm going to work a double in between the 2 stitches here, and then we go straight on to the next back post double and work a front post double around that stitch, a normal double into the space, and then a front post double, oops, around that next stitch, double into the space and a front post double around the next stitch. Double into the space, a front post double around the stitch. So we're just going to carry on all the way around in the same way, working a front post around the stitch and then a double into the space, a front post double around the stitch, a double into that space. We're just going to work all the way around this row exactly the same. So when we get round to the standing front post that we did there, we're going to just join with a slip stitch, pull the yarn through, pull tight to fasten off. If you want to do a quick stitch count, you should now have 24 stitches altogether. I'm just going to work in this end from the first row. And the original tail that we'd got on the beginning. And for now I'll just work those through at the back just so that they're out of the way. I will work them in a little bit more securely when I work all of the ends in. So there we've got row 1, row 2 and row 3. So I'm going to now change colour. I'm going to work with the white yarn. Again, I'm going to just slip knot onto the hook, and for row 5 I'm going to just work a back post single around every stitch. So to start the standing back post, we're just going to come in front of the stitch, pull a loop through, yarn over and pull through 2. We're just going to do exactly the same all the way around this row, so that we've got a back post single around every stitch. So again, at the end of this row we will still have the 24 stitches. So if you want to pause the video again at this point until you reach the end of this row, again when we get to the last stitch we're going to just do a slip stitch to fasten off, cut off the yarn and pull through. You will seem to have quite a few ends to start with, but as we go further along there'll be less and less to work in. So I'll carry on working my back post single crochets around this row, and I'll meet you when we get to the other side. So I've reached the end of the round and fastened off the yarn there. I'll just show what that circle is going to look like on the finished throw here. And don't worry if it looks as if it's curling up a little bit, it will flatten out as we go along. For this next round I'm using the pale grey. It's actually called Dove Grey, this particular shade. So we're now on to row 5. We're going to work a double into one stitch and 2 doubles into the next stitch, but again you can start in any stitch anywhere around your circle. I'm going to start with a standing double. I'm going to just work the 1 stitch into this first stitch, and then we're going to work 2 doubles into the next stitch. I'm going to work 1 and then 2 into the next. So it's just a repeat of this all the way around, working 1 double and then 2 doubles into the next, 1 double into the next stitch and 2 into the next one. At the end of this round you will have 36 stitches if you want to do a quick stitch count to make sure that you're still on track. Just pull that back through. We've got 1 in that one, so we've got 2 in the next. We've got 1 in this next stitch, and then we go on to 2 in the next one. And here I'm going to catch these tail ends of yarn as I'm coming around the row. So if you want to carry on working the same way all the way around until you reach this last the first stitch, the last stitch that you do will be the 2 doubles and a quick count just to make sure that you've got the 36 stitches for this row. Once you've got round to the end and you've done those 2 doubles in that last stitch, we're going to join into the first stitch with a slip stitch, cut off the yarn and fasten off. On my blanket I'm going to work all of the rows with the popcorns in white, but it's entirely up to you what colour theme you're going to use, so you use whichever you prefer. But on the original blanket, as you can see there, all the popcorn rows have been done in a white, just so that there's a theme that follows through. But you can use, as I say, you can use any colour that you want to. So for this row, again, we're going to start with a slip knot onto the hook, and we're going to start in any of the 1 double crochet stitches. So we've got 2 there, 1 here and 2. We're going to start in any of the 1 double crochets, and we're going to work a popcorn into that stitch. So as always, the popcorn is going to be 4 doubles, so I'm going to work a standing double first and then another 3 doubles all into that same stitch. I'm going to put the hook into the top of the first stitch, pick up the loop, pull it through, pull tight and a chain 1 to fasten off the popcorn. We're now going to work a double crochet in each of the 2 doubles that we've got here. So we've got a double into that first one and a double into the next one there. And this is the pattern repeat. So we're going to work a popcorn into the next stitch, which is the double. 1, 2, 3 and 4 into the top of the first stitch, pick up the loop, pull tight and a chain 1 to fasten off. And then we've got the 2 doubles here. We're just going to work 1 double in each of those 2. So if you want to carry on around this row, working that pattern repeat of a popcorn into the double that's sitting on its own there, and then a double into each of the 2 doubles that are into that next stitch. And 2 doubles. So if you want to, again, pause the video at this point and work that pattern repeat all the way around this row, you'll have a popcorn, 2 doubles, 1 popcorn, 2 doubles, a popcorn, 2 doubles, and so on. And I'll meet you when we get round to the end. Once we get round to the last stitch, which will be one of the 2 doubles into these 2 doubles here, we're just going to join into the top of that popcorn with a slip stitch, cut off the yarn and fasten off. And if you want a quick stitch count, again, we'll have 12 popcorns on this row and then 12 of the 2 doubles in between each one. And on to row 7. I'm going back to the colour that I started the beginning of the round part with, the paler of the blue colours that I'm using. I'm going to start around any of the popcorns, and again I'm going to start away from where I've got this tail of yarn. Going to do a front post double around the popcorn. So we just yarn over behind the popcorn, pick up a loop, yarn over through 2 and yarn over through 2. Then we're going to do 2 doubles in each of these 2 doubles here. So 2 into the first one, 2 into that second double there, and then a front post double around the popcorn, and that's the pattern repeat. So we've got 2 doubles in that first double, 2 doubles into the second double, and a front post double around the popcorn. We're just going to carry on all the way around this row, working 2 doubles, 2 doubles, and then a front post double around the popcorn. So if you want to pause the video at this point, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. At the end of this row, if you want to do a quick stitch count, you should have 60 stitches. For the next row, I'm going on to the dark grey, and for this row we're going to work a back post double around each stitch. So again, you can start in any stitch anywhere around the circle. I'm going to do the first one as a standing back post double. We're just going to work exactly the same all the way around this row. Again, at the end of this row you'll also have the 60 stitches. And rather than you having to watch me work 60 back post doubles, be a good idea to pause the video here and work your row all the way around, and I'll meet you when we get to the end of this one. When you reach the end of this row, again we're just going to fasten off by slip stitching into the top of the first stitch, fasten off and cut off the yarn. I'm now going on to the darker of the 3 blues that I'm using for this blanket, and we're going to now just repeat row 8, which was the row that we've just done. We're going to work a back post double around every stitch. So at the end of this row we've still got the same amount of stitches, which is 60, if you want to do a quick stitch count to make sure that you're still on track. So again, if you want to pause the video at this point and carry on working your back post double, one around each stitch from the previous row, and I'll meet you when we get to the beginning of this row here. On to round 10. For this round I'm going back to the medium blue of the 3 blues that I'm using. I'm going to start again with a slip knot onto the hook. We're now going to work in, we can start in any stitch, we're going to do a double. So I'm just going to work a standing double there, chain 1, and then we're going to go straight into the next stitch and work a double, chain 1 into the next stitch and work a double, chain 1, and again a double. So this is just the pattern repeat for this row. We're working a double crochet into every stitch with a chain 1 in between each of the doubles. We're just going to carry on all the way around this row. At the end of this row you will have 120 stitches. That's 60 of the doubles, and there will also be 60 of the chain 1 in between each double. So again, you can pause the video and work your doubles with the chain 1 spaces all the way around this row. And again, once you reach the end, we're going to just slip stitch into that first double here and fasten off and pull the yarn through. Oops, I didn't do a chain 1 there after that double. Chain 1 and a double, chain 1 and a double. So I'll let you pause the video and work your row round to the end, and I'll meet you there. And on to row 11. I'm using the medium grey of the 3 greys that I'm working this blanket with. I've got a light grey, a medium and a dark, and we can start in any double. I'm going to work a standing double into that double. We're then going to work a double into the chain space and a double into the next double, a double into the chain space, a double into the double and a double into the chain space. This is just the pattern repeat for this row, that we're working a double into every double. We're also working a double into the chain space between the doubles. So at the end of this row you'll again have 120 stitches. So a double into the chain space, a double into the double, a double into the chain space, a double into the double. So if you want to again pause the video and carry on all the way around, working a double in every double and a double into every chain space that sits between the doubles, and I'll meet you when we get to the end. And when we reach the end of this row, the last stitch will be in the chain space between the double here and the double that we started our row in. So I'm just going to join with a slip stitch, snip off the yarn and fasten off. Now going on to the lighter of the 3 greys that I'm using for this blanket, and for this row again we can start on any stitch. We're going to back post double around every stitch, so we just start anywhere and work a standing back post double around the double. We're going to do exactly the same around every stitch all the way around, and this is row 12. So again, if you want to pause the video and work a back post double around each stitch. As with the other blankets that I've got on my channel, there will be a written pattern available for this blanket as well. It should be published in the next few days on Ravelry, and as soon as it is, I'll pop the link to the pattern in the description that will sit just below the video. So if you want to pause the video now and work your back post doubles around each of the stitches, I'll meet you when we get to the end of this row. And on to row 13. We're now going to work a treble crochet cross stitch. So we're going to start with a standing treble. We've got yarn over twice into any of the stitches, pick up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. We're now going to go into the stitch before the stitch that we've just worked, and we're going to go behind this treble. We're going to do a treble into that stitch. 2 and 3. So we've got 2 trebles crossed over, and the second bar of the cross goes behind, you can see better there, behind the first stitch. So we're now going to skip a stitch, we're going to do a treble into the next stitch, and then the next treble will go behind this treble into the stitch that we skipped. Just zoom in slightly and work that stitch again so that you can see it a bit more clear. So yarn over twice, we skip a stitch, we go into the next stitch and we work that treble stitch, and then we do the next treble into the stitch that we skipped here, and we go behind. So yarn over twice, behind the stitch and into that skipped stitch, yarn over through 2 once, twice and 3 times. So you can see there that we've got 3 of the treble crosses. We're going to carry on all the way around, skip a stitch, work a treble, and then work the treble into the skip stitch going behind the first stitch of the cross. And we're just going to carry on all the way around this row, working the treble crosses, with the second half of the cross going behind the first half. So that's the pattern repeat for this row, and again I'll suggest that you pause the video at this point and work your treble crosses all the way around the row, and when we reach the end we're just going to again join with a slip stitch into the first half of the first cross that we made there. I'll just do another couple just so that you can see how the stitches worked. So the first treble goes into the second of the 2 stitches here, and then we go back into that skipped stitch and work the second half of the cross. We're coming round to the last few treble crosses on this row. Don't worry if the throw looks a little bit frilly. It will flatten out as we get further along. So there's the last of the treble crosses. I'm now going to slip stitch into that first half of the cross that we did there at the start of the row. I'm going to fasten off the yarn and pull through. So at the end of this round you should have 60 of the, I'll just pan back in a little bit, 60 of the treble crosses around the blanket. So we'll end part 1 on this row, and I do hope that you'll join me again for part 2. If you want to subscribe to the channel, and if you hit the little bell, it will give you a notification that the next video has been uploaded. It's free to subscribe, so feel free to do so. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.